I'm not sure a digital PTSD exists. And we thought about putting a question mark at the end for a while before deciding to remove the question mark. But I think a digital PTSD will exist, could exist. Now, what's interesting is that the word trauma, post-traumatic syndrome disorder, trauma in Greek is a wound, something piercing that wounds. And yet in German, Traum is a dream. So the two are somehow connected. We have been receiving requests to increase the digitalization of our programs. As most museums, in particular during this year of lockdown, we've been asked to produce a kind of content which we traditionally did not produce. And perhaps radio stations and television stations and other, even newspapers or magazines, had more experience within this realm of producing, let's call them podcasts or riviste or discursive moments that are removed from the physical space of the museum. And this request to go digital or to increase the digital has been something that's been going on for the last 10 years, but that has suddenly had an incredible acceleration. And I think probably we won't be able to go back to how we were. If we are in a new epistemic regime of the digital, as Paul Preciado somehow suggests, then maybe we are asked to become not free ports, but storages of artifacts. Now the museum, in the way that ours is, comes down from a European tradition of the late 1700s, when the aristocratic and the monarchic collections, private collections, were shared with the public to create a space of education and also for nation building and civic society identity building. I don't believe in throwing out the baby with the bathwater. I think revising the narratives and multiplying the narratives through a healthy skepticism is extremely wise. But our material heritage is something that remains for others to play with in the future. I'm not sure all of our digital material in the cloud or in the desert or in the cables under the ocean will actually be upgraded to the proper new software. I'm not sure. And it might not. So we might be on the verge of a new return to a form of oral society, which is extremely interesting, of course. But it is quite different from sharing material heritage and concerns, physicality. I say this also in terms of the performative. So I think that the museum of the future could be a space of negotiation and of understanding, of an experimentation of a less binary sort, not the virtual world or the physical world, which is a return to Descartes and which would be nuts of us to do, but the future of museums could be that of being a site of negotiation to understand this digital epistemic regime, and a space like a gym or like a playground where suddenly what was of the order of the symbolic before, such as a painting, becomes that real which is accessed, or rather never accessed, that imaginary that is accessed via the symbolic. If that is the case, there is an extraordinary important role that can be played in this. If we understand, and if we understand how we can navigate an era of extreme narcissism, an era of the extreme self, an era of the power of the digital, or the apparent power of the digital self, within a regime actually where we are rather poor players fretting on a stage. The exhibition will probably continue to exist in the way that theater has continued to exist after film and after television, but it is no longer naturalized. It is representing itself and it is reperforming itself. So I understand that this small world of the museum is a detail within the bigger picture, but it is the detail that I know, and it is the detail that prompted this conversations. So I'd like to end with that and wish you a good virtual online viewing. Thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you, Carolyn, for this wonderful introduction and setting the context for the lines of inquiry that this event is aiming to pursue. And thank you also for highlighting some of the challenges that museums and institutions and the very practice of art and exhibition making are facing today at a time of increased digitization.